I feel like singing nobody knows the
The
trouble
trouble
I
I've seen, nobody knows
knows
but
but
Jesus.
Hey everybody, welcome to Read This, Read That. I am Jackie Reed.
And I'm Joy-Ann Reed.
How you doing, cousin?
I'm doing really wonderful, cousin Sister Soror friend. How are you?
I'm good, cousin sister Sora friend. Are you
Yeah.
really doing okay? Should we be seeing some Negro spirituals?
Nobody knows
The
the
trouble
trouble I've seen.
nobody knows but Jesus.
Yes, he does.
Mm. Well, welcome everybody. We kind of came back a little bit with our get out the vote specials,
We
which I
did.
thought were amazing. And
Yeah.
now we are back fully with Read This, Read That. New episodes coming to you every week, except for holiday week. Except for
Because we're
holiday
going
week.
to be off doing our own thing on the holidays. Let's just be clear.
Let's be clear. You know, our schedule is off and all over the place. That hasn't changed, but we are back.
Right.
And for those of you who are new to Read This, Read That, we start the show off with our wind down. And today, in honor of the election results, we have brown liquor. You got a big old glass.
Oh, I'd like to introduce you to my Uncle Nearest. Now, you can see from the state of this bottle that Uncle Nearest been real busy in my life.
You know how much I have. I have Jim Beam, girl, because I'm not a brown liquor person, so I didn't have anything except for look. Don't laugh.
Mm-mm.
I had a little bottle of Jim Beam.
That's the littlest bottle of
The littlest
Jim Beam I have ever seen in my entire life. Jackie is now, for those who are only listening on Apple Podcasts, Jackie is now pouring the little droplets from a very tiny, tiny bottle of Jim Beam into her glass by the micro ounce. I can't explain it. I just know that I saw it and it happened.
It
It
happened.
occurred.
But
Whereas
it is
I have an enormous giant glass.
I was gonna say now brown liquor.
Uncle
I'm not
Nearest
a
and
brown
soda
liquor drinker,
and Coke.
but then aren't you supposed to have like a little bit
I mean,
with?
it's mostly Coke. It's Coke. It's Uncle Nearest and Coke.
Oh, you mix it with
Coca-Cola.
Coke, with Coca-Cola.
Yeah, there's Coca-Cola in here.
It's Coca-Cola, Joy.
Coca-Cola, and Uncle Nearest.
Coca-Cola. Yeah. Okay. I thought that was all Uncle Nearest. Like the
Oh, baby,
whole.
no, I'm not that far gone.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Well, you guys, welcome to the show. We're glad to be back. We really are, in spite of everything. We've been planning this comeback for a minute. And we start off our show every episode with our wind down, which is why we have our brown liquor to symbolize what happened in the election this week. It's brown liquor instead of mocktails, cocktails, or wine this week. So this is the wind down is when we typically talk about something personal, how we're feeling, what's going on in our lives. And so we decided to start it off by talking about how we processed the election results. Because you and I were texting back and forth on Tuesday night as everything was happening. Take me through, Joy-Ann. I'm going to ask you to go first because you're much more just ingrained and connected to this process. I mean, the people that you've been talking about this night after night after night after night. You know what I mean? And I know you love it because you love politics and history and things like that. But take me through the moment that you knew that Donald Trump was the winner and the range of feelings that you felt leading to today. Like, how do you feel now compared to then? How'd you feel at first?
Yeah. And I will say that, I loved it. I've always loved politics, but the love has kind of waned over time because politics used to be a matter of whether you were going to get, the amazingness of Barack Obama or John McCain.
Yeah.
Who I wouldn't have agreed with, but he wasn't the end of democracy,
Decent
or
person.
Mitt Romney, or
Yeah, decent people.
right. And even when the election where I felt it was the most existential was probably '04, when I had quit media to work on a campaign because in my mind, America's survival depended on defeating George W. Bush. So that was the first campaign I ever worked on. I worked for America Coming Together. George Soros, he is a great man, and he funded us to the tune of $260 million.
Okay.
And we lost, and then at the time that felt catastrophic, but I don't think there's any feeling of catastrophe that I could compare to this Tuesday election, to be honest. So I was sitting on the set at MSNBC in New York City in 30 Rock. And I'm, in my usual spot next to the great Rachel Maddow, right? One over from Nicole Wallace, and the whole team are there. Jen Psaki was sitting to my right. It was just the team, everybody, the whole team, all the primetime people, Chris Hayes was on the set. They all shuffled, everybody shuffled in and out. Everyone, all your favorite cast members, Lawrence, everybody, Alex, everybody was shuffling in and out throughout the course of the night. And at first, I went in very confident that this remarkable 107-day campaign was going to result in Kamala Harris winning. And looking back on it, it was a delusion to believe that a Black woman, even in 2024, or any woman, to be honest, could get elected in these United States. I think it was a beautiful delusion. It was something we let ourselves believe the data. And this happened in 2016 as well. The data suggested, yeah, she can win this. She just has to match Biden's numbers. And I think about elections as just a math equation, because that's what they are. It's, can I get X number of people to vote in these key swing states so you can win the Electoral College? What we were all waiting for was for Kamala Harris to go ahead in the election and Donald Trump to come out and go to the cameras and declare victory when he was losing. That's what we were preparing for. Months of court action, months of fighting, over the fact that Kamala Harris would win the popular vote, but then Donald Trump would fight it, and then she would have to fight to be the president. That's what we were all assuming, because we were going by the numbers, the data. Over the course of the night, I was not only texting you, my wonderful soror sister, cousin, friend, I was texting everyone in my family, including my youngest, who was texting me every 10 minutes.
Because everybody's
demanding
looking to
updates.
you.
Miles, yeah. Miles was like, he's become like the most political of the three kids. All my kids are very invested in politics, or invested in campaigns. They're not invested in the sense they think about it all the time, but they all vote, and they all, do their part. But he became like really invested in the outcome. So he was texting me literally every 10 minutes. But then also the campaign. I was texting the campaign because that's my job, right? I'm supposed to text the people that are in or close to the campaign. And at a certain point, they stopped responding to texts. And the sort of experts sort of in the periphery of the campaign stopped responding to texts. And that's the same thing that happened in 2016. When the campaign people aren't responding to your texts, you know that the campaign is losing.
Yeah.
Because they just go dark. And when they went dark, and this was probably around 11 p.m., and we started to see, that the swing states weren't being called. And after Josh Stein won in North Carolina, they weren't calling the presidential. And then they called North Carolina for Trump. And I was also looking on, I don't go on Twitter anymore. I don't use it anymore, but I look at it just to see what people are saying. Other news organizations, not ours, started calling states. And then it really started to hit me at about midnight. Oh, this is happening. And this wasn't just an election. This was a question of whether we were going to live in fascism. Yeah. Whether the person who quoted Hitler was going to be president with all of the powers the Supreme Court majority has given him, with unlimited power, essentially, and with the Senate and probably the House. And then as the night went on, maybe with the popular vote and what he would view as a mandate. And the mandate is to do really terrifying things. Mass deportation, the attempted deportation of 11 million people. I mean, it's the end of LGBTQ rights. Let's just be clear. Yeah. That's over.
National abortion ban.
Potentially a national abortion ban. Lots more women dying, disproportionately women who look like us.
Yeah.
We're talking about women's rights being rolled back.
Getting rid of vaccines, possibly, with Robert Kennedy.
100%. Oh my God. Just the fact that Robert Kennedy could control our healthcare system should terrify everyone.
Everyone.
If you have school-age kids, the idea of ending mandatory school vaccines so your kids could go to school and catch mumps, rubella, or the measles, or COVID again, people dying from diseases you could survive theoretically. And then Elon Musk controlling our government, controlling the president. And through JD Vance, who's just their employee, just Peter Thiel's employee.
Right.
And as I'm just going through all of these horribles that are now happening, like they're going to happen. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, how do we personally, our families, how do we keep ourselves safe from this? Because this is a literal fascist takeover of the United States, the same way that it happened in Germany,
Yep.
voted in. And our fellow Americans looked at fascism in the face, looked at someone quoting Hitler right in the face and said, yes, give me that. He was
It's the
literally
Hitler
pretending to
playbook.
do, he was pretending to do fellatio on a microphone. And they said, give me
Yeah.
that. JD Vance called Kamala Harris trash, which I will never forgive if I live to be 1,000 years old. There's
Ever.
nothing he could do to ever gain my respect after calling this woman the trash. Like, actually, F him for
Yeah.
life till he
Same.
dies.
Yep.
Never can recover from calling this woman the trash. And people said, yup, give me that. Boy, as the night went on, I have to say it got more and more quiet. And more because we're literally all calculating, okay, how are we going to survive fascism? It's something we never thought we'd have to cover.
How did you sit on that set after that and continue? Because you were still on there a while till what, 2:30 in the morning?
About almost 3.
Yeah. What was
It's the
that
same
like?
as 2016. At least in 2016, I was stuck in a green room because I was, in 2016, I was, a castmate, but we didn't have this kind of cast. We didn't have the me, Rachel, and that didn't exist
Yeah.
yet. And so I was in a green room with Nicole Wallace, weirdly enough. Me, Nicole Wallace, Steve
Wow.
Schmidt, Michael Steele, a bunch of us were in the green room together when 2016 results came in. I had just passed Rev Sharpton in the hall. He was on his way to her big old watch party, which was supposed to be a party, then turned into like a funeral.
At Davidson, right?
Yeah, so this is my second time around, and I was so confident. I knew how 2022 was going to go. I knew Joe Biden would win in 2020. I was super confident. So those elections were a breeze, but this was rough. Like, you have to sit there and fix your face on TV and
Yeah.
figure out how to explain to an audience where 99% of them voted for Kamala Harris, why even after all the metrics that said she should win, she didn't win. We had to explain that, and it's hard.
Yeah, it's got to be hard because I know you were, angry, sad, mostly angry, a lot of sadness. I mean, because I was there, with you in spirit, watching from home in my pajamas. I had my, non-alcoholic sparkling champagne. I had made a great dinner. My mom and I were like having like an election party kind of thing because we were like, she's going to win. Like, you could not tell me that this wasn't happening.
Yeah.
And at some point, I mean, I didn't want to believe it, even though I was seeing it. Because I remember early on, my mom, like maybe at about 8:00, right? My mom was like, it's a lot of states, a lot of red. I was like, Mom, that's how it goes. Listen, it's going to be a long night. We might be in this until, the weekend. And then I think I started to get worried. I'm trying to think. Maybe it was like 9 or 10. It's all a blur. But as I remember, I can't remember which went first, North Carolina to him or Georgia. I think Georgia did. I had this dream the night before. I was so confident.
Yeah.
Because Kamala Harris represents such excellence, not just Black woman excellence, just excellence. She is the most qualified person to ever run for president.
Yep.
Right. And just the campaign that she put together was sheer perfection. I mean, the coalition, the Republican support, the former Trump aides and supporters that were now on her side, the celebrities, and just how she handled herself. All those in 100 and what, 7, 8
107 days.
I mean, it will go down in history as probably, in my book, one of the best executed campaigns ever, considering the time constraint and everything.
Yeah. By
I think,
her.
well, in my opinion,
Maybe not by
right?
her team.
Well, there's that. I'm gonna let you.
Not
I'm
her
gonna let
team,
you
but the
get-
campaign. The Democratic Party, I don't know about that. But yes, by
Well,
Kamala
yes,
Harris.
the
Oh,
Pelosi's
she
and
was flawless.
she was her and the campaign part that she managed, the decisions that she was a part of, I think were flawless. But to your point, I do think that she should have probably followed her own gut, not knowing if she did or didn't. I feel like she did a lot of what Dems always do. And I think that if she had probably trusted her gut, assuming that she saw things differently, that it might have gone differently. But that's my 2 cents. I cried that night because at some point, like, I didn't want to see them call it. I was I was so, people will tell you, I was so excited. I was not going to go to sleep because I wanted to hear you guys say Kamala Harris is, I wanted to see it live. I don't want to see
Yeah.
it the next day. I wanted to see that history. And then when I knew it probably wasn't going to come, I didn't want to see you all call it for Donald Trump. So at
Mm.
about, was it 1:32? I can't remember. I just got in the bed
Yeah.
and just cried myself to sleep. And then when I woke up the next day, it was surreal. It was like,
Yeah.
did this really, I had to turn on the TV and like look at my phone and just make sure that this happened. And then it was just heartbreak. Before I became angry, I was just brokenhearted. Um, because this country just disappointed me. So I just really believed that this Black woman was going to win and America was ready for it. I remember a friend of mine texted me, a couple of weeks prior and was like, is she the best candidate? I don't know if America's ready for a Black woman. And I let her have it. I was like, they weren't ready for slavery to end, but it ended. They weren't ready for the civil rights movement, but they weren't ready for Barack Obama, but he won. I was like, but as the days have gone on since Tuesday, I realize that she's right. America's not ready for it. And I've accepted that. I've gone through sadness, being brokenhearted, very angry, still some anger, but also to a space where I am like, I'm not giving up. I'm not moving. I'm not stepping away from this fight. I am encouraged and I'm rolling up my sleeves. Like, and it was Kamala's speech the day after that really, like, I was in tears for that in that moment. But I just feel like, there's too much work to be done. And I know Black women are hurt and there's a
Mm.
lot of sadness amongst us. And I would say experience that, but then you got to come back. We got to figure something out.
Well, and here's the reality. Like, I think for 107 days, we chose to believe that America is other than it is
Yeah.
something other than what it is. When deep down in the back of our mind and our spirit, we know what America is because
Wow.
our people have been in this country since 1619 and have been in the Americas since the 16th century. And the reality is that what America is an experiment in white supremacist capitalism. It's the
Period.
invention of capitalism happened
Yeah.
here. And
Yeah.
capitalism in America was built on subjugating us. And the subjugation of Black people and the disrespect and subjugation of women are the core components of what built America. When America was built, it was an oligarchy for rich white men, where poor white men were nothing and couldn't vote because they didn't own property, where women were property. White women were under coverture and had no individual rights. The vote was a family vote by the head of household, the man, and they didn't get voting rights till the 20th century. And Black people were property, and white people fought so hard against Black people being human that even after the Civil War was over, they couldn't stand more than 12 years of Reconstruction before they reversed that. They couldn't stand for us to build prosperous cities like Rosewood or what was called Black Wall Street before they burned those to
Also,
the ground.
yeah.
They couldn't stand the idea of even a few Black people being in higher institutions of learning before they were willing to rather burn the college to the ground rather than have us there. The fight against Blackness and against women's empowerment has been the most consistent trend in America since its founding. And
Yeah.
the idea that suddenly, out of nowhere, a country that has never shown great respect for women, that has never shown any respect for Black people, would suddenly elect a black woman to be president. This was our fault, our delusion that we believed America to be other than it is. And, everyone now is coming out with all the conspiracy theories. And did Elon Musk use Starlink to steal the election? And did votes
Okay,
slip?
now listen. We're going to have to talk about that because you're the expert in this stuff. And DL Hughley just posted something
I
today
saw it.
about the
I
math.
love DL, but I'm just telling you, the answer we don't want to, the thing we don't want to confront as
La,
black
la, la,
people,
la, la,
can
la,
la me all you
la.
want because it's a sorrow friend. The thing we have to confront, and this is something I think that's really actually useful for black folks, is that all we got is us. Because in the end, what caused Donald Trump to win the election was a super surge of white voters, unlike anything we have seen in recent memory. They came out of the walls, the floors, and the woodwork to vote to return this white man to power, regardless of the fact that he's quoted Hitler,
So all the early
regardless of the fact that he is
voting.
geriatric and sundowning, regardless of the fact that he has made dangerous plans, regardless of Project 2025, they don't care because he is emblematic of what they view as the only legitimate leadership that America has ever known. He is a white man, and therefore the power and the power of the majority to remain in power and the power of the majority to remain in a position of privilege matters more than anything else. And that also matters, we hate to admit it, to some people of color who
It,
believe that the
it
only
does.
legitimate leader
Right.
for any country is a white man. And there are
Well,
some people of color who believe that.
it's like some of our parents, and not even just them, some of us who believe if I'm going to go to a doctor, I want to go to a white doctor. If I get a lawyer, I need to get a white lawyer. It's like that kind of thing. They've even swallowed the pill that
Absolutely.
whiteness is better. And what the thing to me that I don't have any evidence of, and I like to be clear about that, but I believe to my core, is that it's not just Republican and conservative white people, it's some liberals too, who may have voted for Barack Obama on a whim, back in the day, who may say, they support Black Lives Matter. They go to a Beyonce concert. They may hug you at work and kiki. But when you go in the voting booth, right, they talk about nobody knows who you voted for. It's public record that you voted, but they don't know who you voted for. And I do believe that a lot of our friends and colleagues and the people in our neighborhoods and at the grocery store who might hold the door for you and do this and that, at the end of the day, they don't want their kids to be one of a few white kids in their elementary school, middle school, or high school. They don't want to be in a world where, like we've done all of our lives, in many rooms, we've been the only one or one of a few. They don't want that.
Both the dogs are losing their minds. All the dogs are weighing in. Nala, no. Don't weigh in.
Stop it. But you
Nala
know what I'm saying?
Beyonce Reed, stop. That's her middle
You know
name.
what I
We gave
mean?
Nala a middle name because her
It
cousin has a
can't.
middle name.
I love that Beyonce's in there, but it can't be that it's just these, ultra conservative, trailer park, if you will, kind of people, uneducated, unsophisticated white people that we always see when people are at these rallies interviewing Trumpers. It's not just them. And it's not just the Mitch McConnells and the Lindsey Grahams and the people who don't even like Trump. They just do it because they want the power, right? It's not just those kinds of people. I mean, I don't even think Elon Musk likes Trump. I think he just wants to be caught up
He
in it.
wants to run America, which he does now.
America. He's going to be our new Secretary of State, I'm hearing.
No, he's going to be our new. It's not. And
Vice
the thing is, it's
President?
not about traditional roles. Elon Musk purchased a president. Let's just be clear.
Yeah.
Elon Musk owns a president now, and Peter Thiel is the co-owner. And all of these billionaires, the top 10 billionaires, the 10 richest people on the planet, made $64 billion collectively in the 24 hours
Yeah.
after that election. This was a strictly financial transaction for them to take over the richest country in the world and control it. Elon Musk is already a defense contractor. He will now control large pieces of the government, including what budget cuts are going to be. And one other thing I'll throw in, because there is a huge facet of this that is about rejection of people based on race and rejection of a woman. And that is something that happened with Hillary Clinton and with Kamala Harris. But there's a third piece of it that has to also be factored in, and it's disinformation.
Oh
A
my God.
lot of people, a
Yeah.
lot of regular folks, even some people of color who
Yeah.
voted for Trump, weren't thinking on the high level of white supremacy. They're not thinking on the level, the 3D chess that says, I need to keep a white man in power because I'm just not. They might have had a sense that I'm not comfortable with a woman and I'm
Yeah.
not comfortable with a black woman. That's a piece of it.
That was a
But
piece of
also,
it.
there's a big piece of it in which one of the leading ways you could tell how someone was going to vote is if they could answer three questions correctly. Question number one, is the are border crossings at a record low? Are they at a record low versus what they were under Trump?
Under Trump.
And yes, they are. They're at
Yeah.
a record. If you answered that question right, ding, 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 you voted for Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
If you answered the question, are we in a recession? No, we're not. We have a great economy. If you answered that wrong and said we are in a recession, you voted for Trump. And if you believed that Donald Trump's policies would aid the middle class, would increase the revenue of regular working people, which they won't, you voted for Trump.
Yeah.
Donald Trump, because he's a celebrity, because he's a familiar figure from The Apprentice, and because he talks like ratchet, like regular ratchet Tubi talk, rather than high minded politician talk, has convinced a lot of working class people, including some working class black and brown people,
Yes.
that he is the
He's
one
just
who will
like
put
them.
more coins in their pocket. And people voted their pocket. They said, I don't like Trump. I may not like what he says. Yeah, he may have sexually abused that lady, but I don't care about that because he's gonna put coins in my pocket. The surprise for them is what he's gonna put in their pocket is probably a ticket out of the United States if they are an immigrant, because he's going to deport them. He's gonna put in your pocket if you're black is a whole red hot bowl of nothing. What he's going to put in your
Yeah.
pocket if you're working class is a pink slip, because you're probably going to be likely to lose your job because inflation is going to skyrocket and the cost of doing business once those tariffs kick in is going to skyrocket. You may not get your Christmas bonus and you may not have health care. So what he may give you is a ticket to the ERA.
Yeah.
And by
Eat
the
aura.
time a lot of
Especially.
regular schmegular people figure out what he's doing, it'll be too late. And the billionaires aren't going to get hurt. The neoliberals, even on the Democratic side, aren't going to get hurt. The Democrats in the Democratic Party who refuse to put money on the ground to move black and brown voters the way they should, who refuse to fund the Voto Latinos and the Black Voters Matters organizations, other than a few pennies and coins, and the refuse to fund the Tamika Mallorys who are trying to get black folks, regular folks out, and the Bishop Barbers, whose organizations are trying to educate and turn out, the Gary Chambers, the people who are trying to get the regular schmegular
Yeah.
blacks and browns out, because
Yeah.
that's not who voted for Trump. Don't get it twisted. It's more affluent people, it's college educated people, and it's non college people, but who have some money who voted for Trump. And so
Yeah.
the reality is, and also lower rung people who don't have any money but believe in him, because to them he's the character on The Apprentice. They don't understand he's a business failure. They think voting for him is going to help them economically. So there was the economic piece, and there was the racial piece, and there was the anti-woman piece. All three combined, and we should have known that outstanding woman could never beat a ratchet celebrity. Tubi won this election.
I think the racism was the biggest part to me. I think sexism was number two, and I think the economy was number three. I don't feel like I think people, to your point, misinformation to me was king. I think people have unplugged from traditional media. You know what I mean? They're not watching MSNBC, they're not watching CNN. They're not reading the New York Times, they're not reading the Atlantic. They're getting all their information from YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. And the algorithm knows that they have doubts about Kamala, or they had doubts, or they are open to, maybe they are concerned about, maybe they tweeted or posted something about gas prices or grocery, like they know how, and they feed you more information. You know what I mean? More misinformation, which is why someone like Elon Musk and X was so valuable. But not just that, I feel like misinformation won the day.
Huge.
Because people were just so, like, even now, these people who are Trump supporters, have the audacity to call us sore losers. And I'm
They
like,
stormed the Capitol.
are
Like
you
when
kidding
Donald
me?
Trump lost, they were like, burn down Washington,
Right.
D.C. Now they're like, why can't we get along and all
Why
of us
can't we
be
all get
friends?
along? No,
Really?
no, listen, and I'm glad we're talking about this, because the Democratic Party needs to grow a pair. Right
Oh,
now, they
they've
need to
already
be.
said peaceful transfer of power. We're going
He
to be
does not
fine.
need to meet with Trump on Wednesday. Trump needs to meet with Biden's chief of staff. He doesn't, like, after all, because it's normalizing this man as president. And I think if we're going to get through this and in 4 years have any chance of winning, next time around, if
Next
Donald,
time around, you assume we're going to have elections.
that's what I'm going to say, if he doesn't do away with elections, if by some miracle he doesn't, stop us from having another election in 4 years, the Dems have to grow a pair. Say how you feel. I don't think you have to be as crass as a Donald Trump and call, people bitches and call people trash and all that kind of stuff, and say that Puerto Rico is a floating island of garbage or whatever. I don't think you have to be nasty, but I think you can be firm. I love what the Democratic governors are doing right now,
Yeah.
being very
Got to
outspoken.
protect your people.
Some, even Tim Walz and everybody saying, you got to go through me before. They're getting ready for Trump and his policies. And they're like, okay, this is when the states can stand firm. You're not going to come in here and try to deport people. You're not, and use our, law enforcement to do it. And I love that. I would love to see that from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I mean, I really would, in their role right now. Somebody was saying put Kamala on the, US Supreme Court. Do it. Like, use the presidency for as much as you can to not just block put some protection in place from Donald Trump, but just to piss him off.
Then you know as well as I do that Joe Biden not going to do none of that. And let's just be clear. Jack Smith has already prepared to drop all the cases against Donald Trump. Donald Trump's getting away with everything. I think people need to really just, it's like at a certain point, you go through anger and bargaining and you get to acceptance. We need to accept that the United States is emerging into fascism. And there's a there's a guy who wrote a piece many, many years ago that talked about the fact that eventually capitalism devolves into fascism. And he was very, very prescient, because what we have is a system in which the prime directive of the super rich is to become trillionaires. They don't care about anything other than that. And the people who support them, the people who prop them up, the Mitch McConnells of the world, the Lindsey Grahams, the Marco, they have no interest in stopping that. The J.D. Vances, who is the person who first called Donald Trump Hitler. It wasn't
Right.
Joy-Ann Reid. I'm
Nope.
not the one who started out calling him Hitler. It was J.D. Vance. But J.D. Vance at some point realized that if Trump is Hitler, it benefits him to be Himmler. It benefits him to be Goering. So he says, if he's Hitler, my best bet is to join the team, not to fight him. And you have people all across Washington who we all know, because on background, we all get the tea. They all hate him. But what they love is power, and they love money even more. And so the people who love money and power, all of these people who also have an axe to grind, like that guy who ran Dr. Gay out of Harvard, who his axe is blacks in higher education. And he doesn't care about anything else. As long as he can run black people out of higher education, then he's satisfied. If the country burns to cinders, he's satisfied. If poor people die, if women die of sepsis because they can't get an abortion, he doesn't care. It doesn't affect him. He can fly his kids to Europe or out or overseas or anywhere else overseas. The people with money have decided that they're just going to rob the bank. And unfortunately, poor people, as they always do, and broke people, not even poor people, because poor people don't vote, broke people are the ones propping open the door to the bank vault and pointing at the money.
Yeah.
And this is the system we have. And Democrats, I have to give them a little bit of a slap as well. They keep running these neoliberal campaigns that talk about things that only people who watch MSNBC can relate
Yes.
to. They
Yes.
can relate to a care economy because we care. We have the privilege to care because we have a little money in the bank, we have a little bit of savings. Our kids go to college, our kids are college bound. And so when you do student loan deferment, that's helping people who went to college. There
Right.
is no state in America where even 50% of Americans have been to college. The highest percentage college attendance is Washington, D.C., which is not a state. They are at about 51% of the people who live there went to college. Every other state is in the mid 40s or below. And
Yeah.
Kamala Harris won every state that's in the 40s. Donald Trump won every state that's in the 30s and 20s. The reality is the majority of Americans, 60, 70% of Americans in most states, did not go to college. So student loan forgiveness doesn't impact them. The idea that you're going to do a child tax credit, broke people don't pay tax. They don't pay federal taxes. So they don't get a child tax. They can't write that off on their taxes because they don't pay enough taxes to write that off.
Yeah.
If you have a business credit of 50,000, which was a brilliant idea that did resonate and I thought was very smart, but that's only going to affect people who want to start a business and have the money to start a business and have the wherewithal to start a business. Most Americans are just getting by. And if you're
And the,
just
and
getting by, it's so easy to sit back and say that dude is funny. He talks like he talk like me. He sound like how I talk. I like how he talk because he just say what he mean. He just say the thing, and they don't know about the Access Hollywood tape now. And
no,
listen, by the way, these
that was
young people never
amazing
heard
to
it.
me.
They never heard it. And so if you were a kid during the 2016 campaign, you were in high school or junior high, you don't know about the Access Hollywood tape. You just know, oh my God, every time I turn around, they talking about trans. I don't want to hear it. He funny. I'm going to vote for him because I'm going to get some money. I'm going to get a stimmy. People were literally voting thinking Donald Trump being president means they get a check in the mail.
And that, to me, I blame the news media for that as well, for normalizing him, for covering him the way that they did. The fact that people didn't know about that, and now the same thing is going to happen, right? We're going to normalize him. We're going to cover the inauguration. We're going to just treat him like he's any old normal president and
On
not
King Day. The inauguration's on King Day.
on King Day. Right? We're going to just treat his presidency. But that's why what I was saying earlier about the Dems. I get it. He won. He's going to do what he's going to do. I'm glad that the governors are stepping up to try to stop it. But I also feel like the Dems need to be a little petty. I need some pettiness. I need for
Have
Kamala
you met any Democrats?
And Biden. This is
I'd
what
like
I'm
to
saying.
introduce you to the Democrats.
Listen, they're Monday morning quarterbacking now. They're looking at all these things. They need to grow a pair. If they want to talk about what they need to do, be bold, right? They don't want to go to that election. Not the election, go to the inauguration. Don't go.
They will.
None of them
They will
should
go.
go.
They will go.
It's like how Biden invited Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham to the inauguration in 2020. And I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
They're going to, Jackie, narrator, they're going to do that again.
No, no.
They are.
No.
They are. And the reality is this is where we have the question about the two-party system and whether or not a neoliberal Democratic Party is even capable of fighting fascism, because that's what we're fighting, right? On the Republican side, they're just openly fascist now. They're not even hiding it. They're not embarrassed about even the Hitler comparisons. They don't care. They're like, yeah, we're going to do concentration camps. Yeah. Any questions? So it's like they're not even embarrassed about it anymore. It's not even an insult anymore. And so they're leaning in. Millions. We don't even know how many. I won't say millions because I don't know. But at least thousands of people got these text messages saying report to slavery.
Oh yeah.
Black people got it. They somehow. Somebody had all the black folks text, cells, and we're sending them. You had women where you now have right-wing men going on social media and say, your body, my choice. We own your bodies. I can't imagine being a young woman at a college campus going in the next 4 years. It's going to be hell on earth. These little incel boys are out of control. They got their MAGA hats on. They are ready. Rape culture is back, baby, because the chief sexual abuser in chief is president of the United States. 2 out of the 6 Supreme Court majority have had histories of or accusations of either sexual abuse or worse, or at least sexual harassment. So it is literally the sex pest era. The sex pest era has come. Men are allowed to be as toxic. Their masculinity gets to be super toxic, because saying toxic masculinity is out of style. Me Too movement is done. It's over. Women are now talking about we're going to do sex celibacy and stuff like that. I fear for every young woman in this country in the next 4 years, because these men, these little podcast bros, they're listening to Dana White, who slapped his wife in public. That's their new leader. Yeah. Hulk Hogan, who's been violent with women. That's their new leader. Donald Trump, who's been allegedly violent with his first wife and allegedly assaulted her sexually because he was mad about the hair transplant that went wrong and she recommended the doctor. These are abusers of women. Hater. J.D. Vance, who has never said a respectful thing about a woman that I've ever heard in public life, ever, including his own family. These people are in charge. Yeah. And so, look, I think what women need to do, and I want to ask you this question too. I think first of all, black women have, you see all the videos on TikTok where blacks are like, I'm gonna be asleep. I got stuff. I got appointments for the next one. We ain't marching with y'all. Don't call us. Because we tried to save this country over and over again. Y'all said you don't want to be saved. Good luck to you. That's what black women are saying. But I want to ask you this question. We have the holidays coming up, Jackie Reed. And I had a psychiatrist on my show who said that it would be legitimate if people said, this is too toxic for me. And if you voted for this Nazi madness, you can't come to Thanksgiving. I don't want you around my kids. I don't want you around me. For my spiritual health, for my mental health, you can't be around me. And I'm wondering how you're feeling about that question.
Well, I mean, I'm definitely breaking up with anybody. And I'm struggling to think of anybody, like nobody in my family that I know of, that I've gathered with for Thanksgiving voted for Trump, right? But it's a small group, and I don't know any friends of mine who I know for certain voted for Trump. I have my suspicions, but I don't know for certain. Nobody's admitting it that I know of. But yeah, I mean,
a lot of blacks ain't gonna admit it. They want to get that plate.
They want to get that plate, but I'm not going to, like, I'm done. I'm not going to break bread with people and be around people like that. I'm not going to I'm not going to engage with them. You know, I'm not going to have arguments with them, because you got to protect your peace. And, you know, the Trumpers, they come on our pages. Tell me the last time you went on somebody who was in MAGA and was like, oh, let me comment on this. Never. They come to us.
Yes.
Because
the thing is, they want to engage with us. The thing that's been so wild. Absolutely, you're right. The number of MAGA people who are always on my page, I'm like, I'm never on your pages.
Never.
I don't care I don't go on, Sean Hannity's page. I don't go on the 5. I don't follow them. I have no interest. They live in their world and I live in mine. But y'all keep coming over here because you want to be at our party, because Beyonce is at our party. Meg Thee Stallion's at our party. The culture is with us. You got 3rd and 4th rate celebrities. You don't have the big people. And even 50 Cent, you can't give him $3 million and he seems like he's with you, but he won't publicly be with you. People are embarrassed to be. You have Amber Rose. You don't have A-listers. And so they want to be at our party.
And
Queen Latifah never does politics. She came forward. When I'm talking about, Willie Nelson was on board. Harrison Ford. So it's like, I mean, Samuel L. Jackson, Spike Lee, Tyler Perry. Like, we are the culture. We're the party where the culture is, where the mainstream cool culture is. And so they want to be attacking us, and they come onto our pages to persecute us because they don't want to be alone with each other. Right. They aren't comfortable. They aren't happy being alone with one another. We are. If none of them ever talked to us, we'd be fine. But they won't stay away from us. We are like, why are you over here? You
because
go back over
angry.
There.
They've won and they're still angry because
they're still angry.
Bitter, mean people. They're just like, they've won and they're still
mad. And it's like, why are you in our pages demanding that we talk to you? I don't go on, like I said, I don't engage on Twitter anymore, but I still have my account because I'm not going to let them turn it into a porn account. Let's just be clear.
Yeah.
And there are people on there who are just demanding engagement. It's like, why do you want to engage with me? I don't want to engage with you. But
I
you are
don't.
demanding my attention. You need my attention. You need the left, you need the liberals to engage you and talk to you and be, because you know that you feel left out. You know your ass feel left out of the culture. You feel left out of the cool culture and you want in. And you can't get in no matter how much you persecute us, hurt us, harm us, deport us. We're still going to be cooler than you. We're still
Always.
going to be more fun than you. We're still going
Always.
to be the hotness, and you're not the hotness. You can't create a replica of our culture. Okay?
And it hurts Donald more
And
than
it
anybody.
hurts their feelings.
It
Byron
hurts
Donalds ain't
Donald more
never
than
going to make
anybody.
it.
Girl, that inauguration is going to be trash. Trash, trash, trash.
Trollville. It's going to be Trollville. Trollville.
Yeah. But we've got to, I mean, to your point though, we do have, the culture on our side. We are the cool kids, but we've got to figure out a way to, I'm not trying to engage with working class because we're working class, right?
Yes.
We don't have to I hate when people say that Dems got to figure out a way to talk to the working class. We're the working class. We're here. You don't have to do that. That's code for white people to me. So I don't like that when people say that on TV.
But don't they have to learn how to engage with regular people? Because here's the thing, and I've been really
Yes, but that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but I've been sitting with
how
this.
you really feel.
Right, and I've been sitting with this. And here's the reality. If my audience, the people who watch the readout, God bless them. We love them. But they are people who are already voters. They are aware of Donald Trump being a fascist. And when I say to you, the most important thing you need to think about is democracy, they know what that means. And not disparaging other people, but if you are just trying to pay your rent every month and you're trying to choose between your medicine and your rent, I'm sure you're not sitting around thinking about democracy. You don't have time to sit down and research everything Donald Trump has ever said that's awful, and you don't have cable. You can't afford it. And even if you did, you're not watching it. You're watching Tubi. And so the reality, you're just trying to watch something to give yourself some joy at the end of the night. If you're a broke person, this is what Bishop Barber talks about a lot, including broke white people. You don't have time to go through the vicissitudes of what does it mean if we're fascism or a democracy? What does fascism even mean? You ain't got time for that shit. You're thinking about, if you vote at all, how do I get bread? How do I get a meal for my kids? So the people don't have time. Gary Chambers talks about this a lot in Louisiana, where black folk just don't vote at all. 10% turnout is a good day. We got to figure out on our side, right? On our side, on the pro-humanity side. Don't even say pro-democracy, because we're not a democracy anymore. We're done. We're fascist.
Yeah.
But on the pro-humanity, on the saving humanity side, because we ain't going to, I'm like you, I'm not going nowhere. My kids live here. Our kids, they live here.
I'm
so
not
we're
leaving.
staying. We're going to fight.
No.
But what are we fighting for?
I'm fighting to stay in the country that my ancestors built.
That's correct. But the question is, what are we fighting for? And to me, and who are we fighting for? And to me, it's to get that person in Louisiana that doesn't vote because they feel hopeless. How do we
That's the thing.
Work with them on how government can deliver for them and really actually deliver, not this neoliberal bullshit about, stuff that helps rich Democrats instead of rich Republicans.
Yeah.
But how do we make sure that things deliver for ordinary working people, particularly Black and brown folks who are going to be the victims of this shit?
Well, I do want to say that we have a guest coming up who is going to help us answer some of these questions. He is a friend of both of ours, and we're going to have him on read this, read that often, because we're going to continue this conversation as we have different shows in various ways, different episodes. We're going to have moments where we're talking about this and trying to solve what Joy-Ann was just talking about. How do we reconnect, and how do we figure this out? So in 4 years, because there will be another presidential election in 4 years, it's going to happen.
Theoretical.
But it's happening. It's happening. All right, everybody. Now it is time for our Let's Talk segment. And that is when, for those of you who are new, because it's been a while since we've been here, that's when we talk about news stories and issues that are going on that got our attention. And we are going to start, cousin, with Miss Beyonce.
Woo.
And her Grammy nominations, because now she is the most. She's already, I think she's number one as far as the winning Grammy Awards. Now she's been the most nominated.
Yes.
She got 11 nominations this week. when the Grammy nominations came out. So now she has in her career 99 nominations, which
She
is
got
more.
99 nominations and an orange Beyonce ain't one.
Ain't
How
one.
about that?
And so my question to you, and I wonder what our audience thinks, is should she go to the Grammys this year? Because she has been snubbed for Album of the Year time and time and time and time again, as Jay-Z so eloquently got on the Grammy stage last
And
year.
Taylor's nominated for Album of the Year again.
Yes. And Jay-Z got on stage last year at the Grammys and called them out on it and said he's won more Grammys than anybody else.
Yeah.
Right. But she's never won Album of the Year, which Taylor has won 4 times.
Yes.
And so my question to you is, should she go?
It's a really great question. If I were Beyonce, I would go. And the only reason I would go is because, especially given the central role that she played in the Kamala Harris campaign, authorizing the use of freedom, showing up at that Houston rally, the personal stake that she put out there. She put herself out there in a really important and I think significant way. I think it will be a statement of her power to show up. And if they're going to snub this sister again, they need to do that to her face. They need to say it to her face.
They keep doing it to her face. When
say
she
it to
shows
my
up.
face. And my whole thing is she should go in there. I hope she performs and brings the house down, because in this moment, post the Kamala Harris defeat, I feel like, well, I won't say defeat. In the moment where a majority of Americans decided they'd rather have a sexual abuser, liar, and thief of classified documents and threat to national security per his own former generals that worked for him. The fact that they'd rather have that than a qualified, incredibly talented woman who is the most qualified person ever, but a woman who is a woman of color, Black and Asian. The fact that she did not become president, but the fact that she carried the whole culture with her in that campaign, the fact that she carried really the roots of American culture, musical culture, acting, theater, everything that you could think of was on Kamala Harris's back. And Beyonce was a huge part of that. She was the soundtrack to the most hopeful political presidential campaign since Obama. I would show up. I would show up looking amazing. I would show up with my smile on my face. I would show up looking fabulous. I would show up showing I am undaunted, undefeated. I will never back down. I'm going to be Beyonce in 4-inch heels and a fabulous dress with my body booming, my dress booming, and dare you not to give me that damn Grammy. That's what I would do.
I say, unless they can tell her that she's going to win, I wouldn't go. I wouldn't go. I just wouldn't, because they have disrespected her so much. Now, this might be the year. I don't know if she nominated Brianna for Album of the Year this year. I think she is. Oh, she is. Brianna says yes.
She is, against Taylor Swift.
Yes, and this is that album that the CMAs snubbed, right?
Which is the other crazy thing. The fact that it didn't just snub, didn't get any nominations.
That's what I'm saying.
None.
They snubbed her completely, but now she's gotten more nominations than any other artist in this year. You know, she's the only one that has 11. Everybody else got her for that album that the CMAs couldn't even acknowledge, right? So I just don't know. I feel like it, to me, in a perfect world, I wouldn't go unless they said, because
you're gonna win, but they can't. They can't guarantee it.
Yes, they can. I bet people.
I would think that the Grammy voters. I mean, and look, by the way, you might have a point, because the Grammy voters are probably about the demographic of the American.
Come on. It's like, are we going to be like Lucy with the football again? You know what I mean? I would imagine if she goes
and doesn't win.
They need to.
I mean, that would be. It would be heartbreaking. It would be hard to watch. But by the way, I'm not going to watch. I'm just going to say right now that I feel like at this point, the overall culture does not have a right to our attendance. And so if they want to have a march, a PHAT march on the January, go for it. We don't have to watch. We don't have to participate. If they, and I won't watch the Grammys. I just will watch on social media to see if she won. I will watch the red carpet, but I'm not going to invest my time anymore in majority things unless the majority starts to show us that they love us like we are. We give them the respect, and we need the respect back. So I see exactly what you're saying, but to me, if she walked in and won it, it would be such a huge moment for for Black women and for the culture. That's why my little dream is for her to do it. But I see what you're saying. I totally see what you're saying.
I mean, oh, girl, I might pass out if she goes and then loses. I can't.
Yeah, see, that's why I won't watch it. I will just find out later. I'll do like what a lot of people, like you said, you did with the election. I'll just find out later. I will not watch it. I'm not going to
Yeah.
sit there and invest my time in
Mm-mm.
this majority culture in this country. I'll watch the BET Awards before I watch that, because I'm like, let me see us get affirmed, the NAACP Image Awards. We need to lean in as Black people to also not necessarily needing the adulation of the majority. We don't
Across
always
the
need that.
board, across the board. And so when it comes to things like this, the question is not only should Beyonce show up, should we show up? Right? How
Fair.
often are we going to continue to, uplift the culture collectively, and give them something? Like we're the foundation of every music genre that
Yes.
exists, even country music, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we're shut out of everything but R&B and rap
Yes.
for the most part. It's like, how long are we going to show up? Like, I think beyond this election, we need to look as Black people at how we show up in this country, and the lack of respect that we get. You know what I mean? Across the
Fair.
board. I mean, it's just
Yes.
something to think
I
about.
agree with that. That I agree with for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Next, let's talk topic. Whoopi Goldberg is launching an all-women sports network. And it's launching in the US this week. It is called the AWSN, the All Women's Sports Network. It's already up and running in a couple of countries, in a few countries. India is one of them, but this is Whoopi Goldberg. Do you think this will be successful? That's the question.
Once you said it was international, I think it could be, because, like, in places like Russia, women's basketball is huge. Women's sports have never done well in the United States. They're not that popular, but women's sports are much more popular around the world. So I think the fact that it's international will give it a chance. If it was just in the US, I would say it probably would not be, because America is not too fond of women.
True. I agree, unfortunately. Okay, next topic. This is one for you married people. Could your marriage use a sleep divorce? More couples get separate beds during vacation. Is this necessary? Now, this is a trend report from Hilton that finds 37% of couples prefer sleeping in separate beds to prioritize getting a good night's sleep on vacation. I think this should happen not only on vacation, but at home. But what do you think?
Look, as somebody who's married to a snorer, and apparently I do snore as well. But to somebody, if you sleep in the bed with somebody who really snores loudly, you really
Yeah.
realize the lack of quality sleep. It actually is torture. So I think having the option, if you are married to somebody who snores at night, it's a godsend to have another room to go into if that gets too much, because sleep is part of your mental health and your physical health. So I'm not mad at the idea. It's funny, because back in, like, the old TV shows, like in the 50s and 60s, they always showed the people sleeping in different beds. They should have just put them in different rooms, because in a lot of countries there's a woman's room and a men's room, and that's not a crazy idea.
It's
Because
not
then if you
crazy at
want to
all.
be together, if you want to see each other, if you want to snuggle, you can always go in the other person's room. It might be actually more like a date. So maybe, yeah, maybe that does work.
I think it could improve your sex life.
I
Um,
think so, because then it's
and
like a date. Then it's like
yeah,
you're not just there, you go in there on purpose.
yeah, you can go watch TV after,
Yeah.
or just do your thing.
And also, Jason and I, we sleep at very different. Like, he goes to bed like at 11 o'clock. Like, he's an early sleeper, and I'm a very late sleeper. So anytime
Wow.
I'm coming, he also is a very light sleeper. So I'm disrupting his sleep by just coming in the room at 2
Yeah.
a.m. when
Yeah.
I'm finally ready to go to bed. So it's disruptive. For me to be in the same room means that I'm disrupting his sleep, and then if he's snoring, he's disrupting my sleep. So it's like you're in a sleep struggle rather than just in, like, the joy of getting good rest. And I think it's not a crazy idea to think the couple should each have their own room. I don't think that's a crazy idea, honestly.
I don't either. I think it makes sense, particularly because of what you talked about at first, that sleep is so important. And I think there's this pressure that if you're not sleeping in the same bed, that you don't have a good marriage, right?
Right.
And I
It's not
think there's
true.
this pressure, and it's not true at all. And
No.
I think we should really normalize this. I mean, there's some people who have a lot of money, where they have like completely different bedroom suites. Like they have a
Yeah.
middle room, a sitting room where the
And then a
TV
sitting room.
is,
Oh, that
couch,
would be a dream
and then
house.
2 separate full bedrooms with bathroom, like very
With their
nice,
own and I want my own bathroom, because that's
right?
the other thing is we have different styles as far as how much stuff you leave on the sink. Do you
Yes,
immediately have to clean hair up off the sink if he's shaving his beard and his hair, and that drives me
yes,
nuts. Having our own tub. I love this idea of
right?
having a suite, if you can afford it,
If
with
you can
whole
afford
2
it.
bedrooms, a center room where you can come together and hang
Yes,
out and watch
hang
TV,
out
and then go to your
and then
separate
go
rooms.
home like a date. You go
Baby,
and then
you
go,
have inspired me.
right? Listen.
I love it.
Okay, last but not least, we want to talk about 2 icons that we
Uh,
lost. Of course, producer extraordinaire who worked in every element of entertainment, Quincy Jones,
mm,
died some days ago, and he will be greatly missed. And Judith Jamison, the like she was the executive director for Alvin Ailey after being a dancer there for years in those early
yeah.
days, executive director for more than 2 decades, and really helped that organization, that dance company, elevate to what it is now, having their own building in Manhattan and
Yes.
school. I mean, she really was integral in helping it become what it is. And if you're ever in New York visiting, please go by the Alvin Ailey
Mm,
building and visit it. You can take classes and you can visit their store and buy things. It's incredible. But um, 2 icons lost this week, and it makes me think about, will they be remembered well
yeah.
by us? Will we do right by them? Will we remember them well? Because a lot of times, I don't feel like when Black people die, even if they're as famous as a Quincy Jones or as impactful as Judith Jamison, that they're remembered well. You know what I mean? What do you think?
And Quincy Jones died around the election. And so I remember on our show having to insist that we just get a little piece about him at the end of the show. And it almost got cut for time because it happened just at the wrong time. It was like when Betty White died, like right in the middle of I think it was a Trump indictment or something, or when Phil Donahue died, we just kind of missed it. But to your point, when Black people who are super famous die, they get even less attention than that. Other than when Whitney Houston and Michael Jackson died. Those were the 2 that just took over the news cycle. But then we weren't in an era where we were worrying about fascism. Judith Jamison, to put a pin in that for a moment, this is one of the most elegant, beautiful, incredible human beings who ever lived. She was
And brilliant.
tall and sinewy and glamorous, and she just brought an elegance and a glamour, and she was the refutation to all of the negative stereotypes of Black women. We don't often get recognized for our glamour, for our elegance, for our beauty. She was a dark complexion sister. She was just this gorgeous, long, fabulous beast, and I hope that
Tall.
people will. Oh, I
Yeah.
just want to share pictures of her on my Instagram because she was just so beautiful.
Yeah.
And then Quincy Jones, look,
Come
all
on.
he had to do for me is write the music to The Wiz. And that he's an icon just for that. But he
Yeah.
didn't just do that. All the great music that you remember from Michael Jackson, Quincy Jones produced that, right?
Yeah.
Some of
Yeah.
the greatest music we've ever heard in our lives before it was, before any of the great Black producers, he was the iconic first who produced just everything you can think of. And I hope that
Everything.
people,
Everything, not just in Black culture. I mean, he worked with Frank Sinatra. He did, I mean,
yes,
things that he scored and the things that he worked on, just,
yes,
I mean, it's amazing. And I was, I love his music so much, so many incredible songs that he was a part of. But I was watching an interview with him and I didn't know this. And I wonder if you did or if people out there listening did, that of course he did Michael Jackson's Off the Wall
yes.
album. He produced that. And he
His
said,
greatest album, by the way.
yes. And he said that Michael fought him on the music at the beginning of, is it Off the Wall? The music.
Yeah. Yeah. Loving is
He
the
said he didn't want the
feeling.
strings. He
He
said
didn't want
Michael
it.
Michael didn't want it. He said, but I was a producer. So that's what
Yeah.
it's the thing that people remember more than anything.
Yes.
And it's so true. You hear that and you know what's coming. But yeah, 2 greats that we lost, that I hope we will remember them in history books. Uh,
Yes.
you know what I mean? That
Yeah.
when we go to New York, we go to the Alvin Ailey dance building and we honor her, we tour it, like we remember her. When the awards
Yes.
happen. They'll remember Quincy, but they need to remember Judith,
They do.
Jamison as well. Two great.
Absolutely. And we
Yeah.
have to I mean, look, The Wiz to me is the greatest musical ever written. And
Yeah.
so again, when he passed away, all I could think about was like playing The Wiz, you know what I mean? And you can't win and believe in yourself and just that this is some of the music that will just stand the test of time. Quincy
And
Jones was truly
home.
one of the yeah, and
Home.
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 When I think of home,
I think of a
I think of
place
a place where there's
love.
love overflowing. Ooh, don't
I
get me
wish I was
started.
home. I wish we have
I
to get
wish I was
Stephanie Mills on here,
home.
right?
Ooh, we need Stephanie. Can we
We
get
need
Stephanie
Stephanie.
on?
Yes!
Baby.
He loves us.
And we love her.
We love her. So we got to get her on.
Yes.
But two greats we lost this week. Rest in
Yes.
peace to both of them.
Rest in peace, rest in power to two of the great Blacks and great humans of all time.
Yes, and gratitude to both of them
Yes,
for all that
for
they
sure.
left us. Let's bring to our audience the one and only doctor, professor, elegant, Black man excellence.
Hip
Michael
hop
Eric
intellectual.
Dyson. Yes, yes, hip hop intellectual. Michael Eric Dyson. Dr. Dyson, we got our brown liquor. We are
Woo, the reeds are popping off tonight. Look at there.
Don't make me drink it from the bottle.
listen.
You know I
don't-
will.
y'all are lit and literature. Y'all are doing your thing now.
Michael Eric Dyson, I saw you out there from my television. I saw you out there on the campus of Howard University on the day after the election when Kamala gave her speech. I assume you were there the night before.
I was.
Just get personal for us for a minute. How have you processed all of this? What was the initial feeling, and where are you now emotionally with all of this? Because you were very invested in this.
Oh, deeply so. And I just got back from preaching at Howard today. I was the preacher on the first Sunday at her alma mater after this travesty, this tragedy, this trauma. And I said to those folk, you got to give yourself permission to grieve. And all of these people trying to trauma shame and trying to grief shame Black people for not getting up immediately are missing the point. I ain't gonna lie to you. I didn't think it was gonna hit me this hard, but it done hit me that hard. And, look, I know her. I've known her for a while. She was the best woman for the job by far. It wasn't even close. And see, what I try to tell people, racism is a dry run for fascism. Everything they want to do in fascism, they don't already practice it on Negroes. They've already practiced it on Black people. What is fascism? Can't vote? We got that. Don't want us to have any political power? We got that. Have codes and restrictions against us? We got that. Everything they want to do now, they've already done to Black people, which is why I feel that despite the despair, the hopelessness, the momentary relapse back into a state of agita and great confusion and hurt and pain, we still gonna be the linchpin to save America. We still gonna be the people that they turn to, even if they've turned on us to make out a way out of no way. When I hear Joy read night in and night out, reading this culture with its white supremacist logic, with its demand that we capitulate before the altar of a whiteness that is prevalent above all. I've been saying for the last 4 years, the real religion of America is whiteness. This evangelical piety that they have been putting forth, Donnie Swaggart, you are more white, as Freddie Haynes said, than you are Christian. And not only that, your daddy was out here putting the hoe in holy. So why you up here trying to tell us our business about what we supposed to be doing, and you're racist behind jamming the Black church? But here's the problem, as Jesse Jackson used to say. You got Martin Luther King Jr. on your church fans, and you got Billy Graham theology in your pulpit. So here you are reproducing the pathology of a condescending theology that is deeply and profoundly conservative, that militates against the trans folk, against the gay and lesbian folk, against the poor folk. So we are our own worst enemies in that sense. So what we've got to do is come to our senses. I heard Joy Reid say, we ain't got no democracy. We fighting for it, and it ain't a given. It is not a given. When this orange apparition, when this inveterately unintelligent man, when this monstrous being who continues to lap at the plate of his own narcissism, his malignant narcissism, this white bestiality, this incredibly unconquerable ignoramus, when he takes office, then we've got to continue to chip away at the power that he possesses. What did Black people have to do? Go back when we had none of this. Back in Reconstruction, back in the Red Summer, when Black blood flowed. Our ancestors built institutions. They created sororities and fraternities out of nothing. They created the possibility of a Black future. And Howard Thurman said, never resist the temptation to reduce your dreams to the event you're confronting now. The event you're confronting now will not last always. So this is what he said. Either you're going to be a prisoner of the event you confront, or you're going to be a prisoner of hope. I choose to be a prisoner of hope.
Help yourself.
If
Help
somebody
yourself, preacher. Help yourself.
Who got a collection plate? Pass the collection plate.
The doors of the church are open.
Lord,
I'll walk with you. Come on. Come on.
And y'all already taking communion over there, so go ahead now.
We got the wine, and we got the wafers. We got the wine, and we got the wafers. All we need is Jesus. All we need is Jesus. All we need is Jesus. We got the wafers and the wine. Help yourself now.
Listen here. You got to laugh because you will certainly be made to cry. And I'm not gonna lie to you. I preached this morning about, pressed on every side, but not in despair. And I talked about Paul, and I talked about Kamala Harris, and Kamala Harris raising up a standard. She was so manifestly superior to this man. So we know her heart is broken, but she got up that next day and she told us to keep fighting. Now we got to suffer a bit first. We got to grieve a bit first. We got to sorrow a bit first. It's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't mean we're weak. Black women have continued to save this nation against its own inclination. Black women have risen up. And that's why I say that, and I know that people say, look, you can't put all this on Black women because they shouldn't bear that burden. I understand that. But what I know at the end of the day, the most salvific, the most redemptive, the most transformational human being on this earth is a Black woman with a conscience determined to change the world and to make it a better place. And so I love and support and uplift, edify, and embrace the spectacular diversity and the profound complexity and the navigatable nuance of what a Black woman represents.
Except we ain't putting on them pussy hats. Y'all try to march by. You want to march with a pussy hat? March, do by yourself. I'm just gonna say it right now. And I ain't speaking for all Black women, but I'm just saying if you show up, because apparently they showing up on January 18th. Y'all do this every time. The majority, you need to go march on your sisters. March next door to your neighbor that you play canasta with. March over there to the lady who you hang out with at the gym. Go march over to your coworkers, your cousins, your sisters, your mama, your auntie. March to their house. If you want to march, you're going to be marching by yourself. That's going to be a very bleachy march. It's going to be un marche blanquita. It's going to be very, very white. It's going to be very mayonnaise. It's going to look like a sandwich with a whole lot of mayonnaise because Black people are not marching on January 18. We already told you, don't vote for that man who's going to take away your bodily autonomy. Y'all want to march? Put the pussy ass on by yourselves. I'm just telling you, Black women ain't going to be there. I'm just saying.
You better go on and say it. And look, 54% of white women, 54% of white women, 59% of white men, 20% of Black men, the Latinos and 37%, and then in the 40%, my point is the only people, Black men and Black women, are the ones who voted for Kamala Harris and who gave our all. And the only brother I saw that wasn't supporting Kamala is the brother who called brothers out for not supporting Kamala.
But let me just say one other thing really quick, because on the black men thing, especially since we have a brother on this podcast, black men, the whole narrative going in, and it's been the narrative ever since back in 2011, back in 2012, when they tried to say black men were going to all vote for Mitt Romney. This has been their favorite. It's the media's favorite chew toy. Black men in 2020, 20% of them voted for Donald Trump in the exit polls. In this race, it was 20%, meaning black men didn't move. Donald Trump got 12% of the black vote in 2020, and he got 12% now. Take this off black men. The same black men who didn't have a problem voting for Donald Trump after he destroyed the word with COVID are the same black men who voted for him this time. There was not a single new Negro male voting for Donald Trump. It was the same people. And so if we need to walk away, we need to bat down that narrative anytime we can, because this was not on black men. And of the Latino men, let me go a little bit into Latino men right quick, because one of the things that's happening, I did want to ask you about this, Michael Eric Dyson. We now have black women and black men saying, hey, if ICE gets you, sorry for you, and saying we're not going to care. I worry about that because if you disaggregate the data on Latino men, on Latinos, period, Mexican Americans voted like they always do. They're always 65-35. They were like 66-33. They were the same way they always were. Puerto Ricans, always almost 60-40. They were exactly the same as they always were. The Venezuelan, Central American, South American background, they voted as they always did, very pro-Kamala. The only group of Latinos that voted, and it was like overwhelmingly for Trump, were Cuban Americans. And they always vote Republican, but they super voted in huge, huge numbers. And the Latinos who did vote for Trump tend to be aligned and tend to have a Venn diagram with evangelical Christians, because evangelical Christians was the other big piece. Every single Christian group super voted for Trump in the 60s or more. So we need to be careful, because it's not your average Mexican American ally of ours that did this, and we're ready to blame them all, and we don't want to be the Hutus and the Tutsis.
But I want to ask this before you jump in here. Let me throw this out here, because I don't have the data. And I don't know it, but Joy, you might, and Michael, you probably do as well. So Trump really got the same amount of votes that he got in 2020.
He got less. He got less.
So, but Kamala did not get as many votes as Joe Biden did. So people stayed home. Like what? Tell me, and of the people who didn't vote, right? What's the makeup of that? Because that's what I'm concerned about. Yes, Black men and Black women voted in record number for Kamala, those of us who showed up. But what about those who didn't show up? That demographic?
Look, Jesse Jackson used to go around saying that the margin of victory could be calculated by looking at those who simply chose to stay home, who were registered and didn't vote, not even unregistered voters. That's another thing. He's talking about the folk who were registered to vote did not come out. So now we got an inspiration problem, not an information problem. What is it that will motivate you to step out there and vote in your best interest? And I heard y'all before I came on talking about, why people don't vote and how we're going to get people around to vote. And the thing is, you got to approach people where they is. So you got to ask them, are you concerned about your light bill? Well, let me tell you about this. That's politics too. Hey, you concerned about your water bill? Let me tell you how that's concerned. Hey, you concerned about your kids and the tax base and if it's going to support your schools? Let me tell you about that. So you got to put it down there where they can understand that politics is everything, just like we do in the church. Oh, we ain't gonna have no politics in here. Negro, your church is born in politics. Wouldn't be no Black church without politics, because we walked out of a white church because they refused to acknowledge our humanity. So yes, when we disaggregate the data, we began to be more targeted and specific in our critique. We know that overwhelmingly conservative Cubans and other minoritized populations, especially Latinos, who are part of a Catholic church or an evangelical church that is deeply and profoundly conservative. They hear the word abortion. Oh my God, no, you are the devil. Let me step on the other side. It's not that they have a deep ideological contestation against the forces of progressivism. They just believe that Jesus don't want you killing no babies. And as a result of that, they are vulnerable to the appeal of a right wing that they ain't, as Sharpton says, you ain't pro-life, you pro-baby. Because when the baby get here, you ain't helping with the life. So if we can begin to get to them to say it's different than you think, it's more complicated than you think, they
And
ain't
it's
got
not
no popular.
communism. They're
It
very
ain't
sensitive
communism.
to messages about communism. I
Well,
know
that's
for
why
sure
Trump
because
does it. That's why
that's
But
how
Trump
they
does
do
it.
it.
They're
And that's
communists.
what they
Trump loves
did.
communists. Yes, that's
they
very
win.
that's
They
very
win
specific.
on messaging. That's the
Yes.
thing. And like Michael was saying, we got to meet them where they is. We have to really, and it needs to start now. I think
Now.
the Democratic Party also has an issue with waiting until to
The
tomorrow.
last minute.
They need to be
Yes,
knocking
yes.
on doors, interacting with people. They need to do it now. Now they do. They need
Can
it.
I just say one thing really quickly about that?
Yeah.
Colin Allred. So we had Colin Allred. Finally, we're able to book him on the readout. And I asked him point blank, I said, look, Congressman, or he's currently Congressman, you are running in a state that has the single numerical largest number of Black people in America. Texas
Right,
has Harris
right,
County, where Houston is, has the
right. Oh
single
yeah,
largest
yeah,
numerical collection of Blacks
right.
anywhere. Number 2 is Cook County, Illinois, where Chicago is. That's the physically, people think it's somewhere in Georgia. No, the largest number of Blacks in America live in Texas.
Right,
And so I
right.
said to him, what are you
That's
doing to try
sad.
to energize that vote? He dodged it.
Mhm.
Then I asked it again. I asked him a second time because I didn't get an answer. I'm
Wow.
like, but what are you doing to specifically engage Black voters? He didn't really have an answer. A week before the election, he finally comes out and does a campaign with Megan Thee. He brings Megan Thee Stallion out and vote and runs with her. But the
Come on,
reality is, there
Come
was
on, bro.
never an attempt to specifically engage Black voters. Harris County is one of the most voter suppressed counties in America. The state of Texas suppresses Harris County votes in every way imaginable, including putting themselves in charge of being able
Mhm.
to reinterpret the election results in Harris County. They are a voter suppressed people, many of whom are from Louisiana post Katrina. And so the reality is, if the Democrats are not on the ground now, which they
now.
won't be, going in there and being like, hey, Houston voter, you don't live in the city. You can't even afford to live in Houston proper. You're on the outskirts, living in poverty. You don't have money. What do you need? What do you want out of
Right,
government? What do you want government to do? Democrats don't do that. They wait until 6 weeks out from the election, throw a few ads on Black radio, throw a few ads on TV, and think
right.
that's getting the Black vote out. It's not.
No, it's a
See, that is
relationship.
so
Don't you
important.
think? Yeah.
That is so important because the fact that you got a Black guy who had a real chance of
Yeah.
beating Cruz, if you were willing to tap into a Black community like any other, not even special pleading, just treat them as a vote rich demographic that
Yes.
has a payoff at the polls. We
Right.
undermine our own African American interests and our own political interests and our own small d democratic interests and our big D democratic interests by being allergic to an appeal to the very people who have been, as you said, suppressed in that vote and who are waiting for somebody to come along to just ask them for
Right.
their vote. And if you
While
and you got
Democrats are running around showing, look, Liz Cheney likes me. Liz
Right.
Cheney, look at her again. Look, here's Liz Cheney. Her dad
right,
likes me too. And most Democrats have been like, say what now? You're
Right.
right,
appealing more to Republican white voters and white women that are never going to vote for you. But
they
here are
ain't
the
gonna
Blacks
never
right
slide.
here
Right.
I
Look,
I
waiting.
I
Right.
have a
Right.
waiting.
girlfriend who I've encouraged to vote in this election, who wasn't planning on it. She's not engaged in politics at all. She's in her 50s. She the last time she voted, she did vote for Warnock, and that's why she registered, because she felt like, let me get registered, let me vote for
Right.
Warnock. And then you know what she said about Kamala? She was like, well, and she doesn't watch the news. I may have said that, but she was like, you know what? Warnock wins, and then I don't see or hear from anybody after that. She's like, nobody's talking to me after that. And I understand that. I had to tell her he spends most of his time in Washington, D.C.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Much of his time. But I say that to say there are these people that are, and she's open to misinformation because she's on the internet. She was like, I heard Kamala locks up Black people like that, Black men. Like, she was repeating all of those talking points to me. But she did
Right.
end up voting because I talked to her, and it was like, okay, I'll go ahead
Mhm.
and vote. But these are the people, these everyday people that are forgotten,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Yep. And if we start early enough, we can reach them. We got to go to the pool hall. We got to go to the barbershop. We
Yes.
got to go to the beauty shop. We got to go to the clubs, and we can't do it. And then a media buy that is, showy, but doesn't have any legs because it comes at the last moment. And black folk are already, see, black folk, when we talking to them, and I've been a pastor 3 different churches, and I hang out with Negroes every day because that's who I is, and that's what I hang out with. And they want to be treated like they are human beings. We live in a white supremacist culture that disregards them. They go to work and they're disregarded. They go to the social arena, they're disregarded. We are the people who could treat them with respect. And you'll be surprised what a little love will do and how far it will
Mm.
go.
Come
We got
on.
to be able to do that.
Yes.
We got to be
That's
able to
it.
do that.
And it has to start
Amen.
now. And Dr. Dyson, I got to ask you about this because I'm Team Petty. I feel like the Democratic Party needs to, Joe and Kamala don't need to show up for the inauguration. Send
They
the chief
will.
of staffs. Like, get petty. I don't get like, and I know you're a minister, and so
Right.
you probably are, want to throw some holy water on me. But I just feel like Dems need to grow a pair. I mean, one of the things that was appealing about Donald Trump as crass, and I'm not saying we have to be that.
I hear you.
I
I hear
think
you.
we have to move away from the over politicized talking points. And I feel like we just need to talk to people, but we need to be real. Like,
But let me tell you what,
to
this is
me,
where black people, this is where black people are. In Proverbs 39, envy not thou oppressor, neither imitate their ways. See, the
mm,
point is, I get your point about being petty or petty LaBelle. I get
yes,
your point about, doing what we do, but here's the problem. It's just like when I was on CNN the other day and
hmm,
Scott Jenkins put his fingers in my face. Now, you ain't going to do that outside of the arena of CNN because I will break your
Come
metatarsal.
on.
I will break your infundibular cortical. I will break your pectoralis major. I will rearrange the structure of your face. But I knew that, as Jay-Z said, if I shoot you, I'm brainless. If you shoot me, you famous. What's a Negro to do? So what Kamala and Joe understand is if they don't show up,
Yes.
the whole news cycle is obsessed with their undermining
Boom.
of American democracy, their
Yes.
bitter grapes, and their inability to accept a peaceful transfer of power.
Come
When we
on.
know the
so
real facts
what?
are there. But so
But
what?
that's
You know
That's,
how it
why?
will
Because
go.
we know why? Because we playing the long game. You just
Amen.
said it. You
mhm.
arguing against your own position. If you playing the long game, you got to do what I did. Okay, Scott, I ain't going. I'm gonna say something, and Abby Phillips is gonna shut me down and not Scott. I'm gonna leave that for another day. But I play a long game that I understand what's involved 2 months down the road. They have to understand what's involved 3 months down the road. We are building an infrastructure that permits us to wield our power in a way that maintains our integrity and yet reinforces our position. We don't do that by imitating them. Don't
Mm.
be what they are. Show them what the right thing. Even if they don't see it, their kids will. Their associates will. Somebody who's looking that you never know. And I'm sure it comes up. Y'all two are famous black women. I'm sure people come up to you all the time. Oh my God, I saw you on this and I heard you on this. And girl, you changed my life. I preached at Howard University today. People watching that thing done called me up because you never know who's watching
Right.
you. And as a
Yeah.
result of that, you have to maintain discipline. Let me tell you what, Michael Jordan, when they asked him, why is it that you put a suit on and you walk from the darn locker room to your bus? He said, for those 3 seconds, that might be the only time somebody sees Michael Jordan. And the impression I'm going to leave them is a man of elegance and integrity. And I'm telling you, when we don't envy the ways of our oppressors and we understand what their game is, we maintain our dignity. Because if they get in our minds and stay there rent free, they've already won the battle. And I say, let's resist it. Let's treat them with utter dignity. Let's treat them with utter respect. Let's show them the way to go so that when we get in power again, and we will be. See, the thing is, you never can predict history. We didn't know Rosa Parks was going to sit on a bus one day because she'd been sitting on the bus many days. And the
Yeah.
conflagration, the convergence of different aspects created a social movement. We didn't know that a hashtag about a young boy who got murdered in Florida would create the Black Lives Matter. So your job is to be ready. Pause. Some people plant the seed. Other people water the seed, but God makes it grow. Our responsibility is to plant the seeds. And when we plant the seeds, they're going to grow in 10 years, 5 years, 6 years. I don't know. But all I know is I got to be responsible for my own plot of earth right here, right now.
Amen.
Fine, fine, fine.
Fine.
Fine, fine, and fine.
Well, and
Well,
I
I
have
know
one
you're
last
describing
question
you
for
enjoy
you,
it.
Michael Eric Dyson, and I think this is something that I've been really struggling with as well, because the Democratic Party, I've worked both in, I've covered it in the news as a journalist,
Right,
but I've also worked on the party side, not in the actual official party, but on a couple of, presidential level campaigns.
right.
And my observation of the Democratic Party is that they are very much captured by a neoliberal set of people who are not necessarily in touch with the streets. There are
Mm-hmm.
some of them who are. There are the people who this new class of Democrats, the AOC generation of them, um, who are different, and who do have an eye toward the streets and who understand how to
Mm-hmm.
talk to regular people.
Right,
But there is a group at the top that run the party at the Pelosi level, at the top level, who they make assumptions about black voters, that they're just going to be there in the end,
mm-hmm.
that they're just going to come along, and that they don't have to work for their votes. And they also have a consultant problem, where the
Right, right.
big consultants run the party, and where
Yeah,
most of the money goes toward TV ads, for which these consulting firms get a commission. And so they're very reluctant to
right.
come off of that strategy and say,
Mm-hmm.
Jasmine Crockett, go out there and do what you do and talk to the people
That's
in
right.
Texas.
That's right.
Or, you know what I'm saying? Like
Right,
Maxwell
right.
Frost, go out there in Florida and talk to the people in a way that we will fund. And also organizations like, Latasha Brown, Black Voters Matter, get out there and do
Yes,
it.
yes.
Maria Teresa Kumar, get out there and do it. We're going to fund you. They don't want to fund that because they have
Right.
this small group of consultants that control the party. And so
Right.
my question, and I think a lot of people are struggling with this, is this about trying to save? To me, I don't think we can save America. This is not black people's job to save America. White
Mm,
America needs to save itself. We've been trying to save y'all from your demons for 400 years, and we're exhausted. We're tired. But we
mhm.
do want to save ourselves from your demons. And so the question is that about fixing the Democratic Party, or finding a third party that can step up and step into this moment, like a working families party, working with that, expanding that? And maybe the Democratic Party is not the vehicle. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a just brilliant analysis. You've deconstructed a whole range of things that people don't often pay attention to. The problem is white folk and black folk on the same ship. Now, if you thirsty and cut a hole in the ship to drink water, you gonna sink us all. So we have to understand that we are, as much as we'd like to think we are separate from white America. Take it this way: what happens to Black Twitter? Where Black Twitter at? You ain't never had a Black Twitter because Elon Musk owns that. And even there, we were sharecropping on digital space. And the problem is that until we own that space, right, outright, we are always going to be existing in collection, in connection, in coalition. That is a reality. Your point about a third party is true, is a powerful point, but I think that in terms of practical politics, the refusal to acknowledge what and who Black people are means that we have to find new ways to bring to bear the specific claims and complaints, the grievances that we have, and unfortunately, to show how they converge, entrance convergence with the dominant culture. And I don't mean dominant culture in terms of the rich white folk. If we could ever convince 10% of working class and poor white folk that we in the same boat, we got the same interests, so to speak, without our cultural differences, we could transform this world. I think we got a better chance of doing that than a third party, which probably doesn't have the leverage or the legs to be able to generate enough interest. Now, it doesn't mean that a third party run, a third party of working families party, couldn't generate sufficient capital and sufficient interest, but it gets played immediately to the side. It gets played off as, oh, they are the crazy ones, whether they're RFK or Jill Stein or West and somebody, because that's what's attracted to that particular mode. If we had a major player, remember when these black ball players for a while were saying, I ain't gonna go to the major white schools, I'm gonna go to the black schools. It worked for a minute, right? But we know that part of it is starving young people of particular resources. Their idealism is not met with support at a level that will allow them even to compete for the larger leagues, began to refunnel them into these larger white schools. So the thing is, we have to carry our consciences in such a fashion that we understand that bloom where we're planted. And we know in this white world, every now and again, and it happens without warning and it happens without any indication prior to, that sometimes the black voice becomes the voice. The black accent, the black ideal, the black engagement becomes the very means by which America begins to grapple with its issues. And the black voice becomes the articulator of ideals, principles, and practices that white folk ain't never thought we were going to know about or able to grasp hold of, and yet they're now dependent upon us. The problem is we can't predict when that's going to happen. So what we got to do is do our jobs. Look, you've been out there. I met you, Joy Reid, when you was working in radio in Miami, and you were just, and I said to him, that is a smart young lady. I said, my God, how come she ain't on the dadgum radio? Because they had some people doing their thing, and she would just peek in and ask them questions. I said, now she's sharp. So we knew that your genius was going to rise to the top, because the abilities of our people must have a spotlight and a showcase to be able to circulate so that your promise can be fulfilled. So at the end of the day, I'm saying this: we stuck with white folk and white folk stuck with us. We are in the same corral, right? Remember when King was in jail and in Birmingham, and the white jailer came to him, Dr. King, you're wrong, that your segregation is right. And King said, no, segregation is wrong. And then they fighting, and then King said, how much money you make? And when the white boy told him, he said, hell, you need to be out here marching with us. So the thing is, right? The thing is, King had the right idea. Barbara has the right idea. Freddie Haynes has the right idea. Gina Stewart has the right idea. What we have to do is to continue not to give up. And it's so easy. My God, the temptation is real. I voted this time and I didn't get what I wanted. I voted this time and look at the heartbreak. Look, I'm right there with you. But I know at the end of the day, the old Negro spiritual said, trouble don't last always. And here we are constantly neglecting the very wisdom that our people gave us, just because it wasn't in no fancy book. It wasn't in no shiny. It was in sermons and songs where the unavoidable sense of expectation that Black people have rose above in a way that trumped all the learning, all the discourse, all the rhetoric, and all the smartness. It is the ineradicable humanity of ordinary Black people that has always changed this world. And I got faith in Black people to do it again.
Amen.
Amen.
And Dr. Dyson,
hallelujah.
I mean, you got to come back now. You're going to have to come back and visit us.
I'm glad, because look, I'm going to tell you how much I love y'all. I waited for 1 hour and 29 minutes last Sunday trying to get on with
He never go. Okay, first of all, Michael Eric Dyson is never gonna let us live this down, Jackie Reid. You know he's never gonna let us live this down, right? We have heard about this. Y'all. And let me just let y'all in on this. We have heard about this 1 hour plus since the live stream.
So we first guest that now we are back. We were like, we got to invite him back. We got to invite our brother back.
You come back. And look, we only going to make you wait 33 minutes next time. How about that?
Wait a minute. But that's how I felt, how much I value our place in y'all. I was willing to wait an hour and a half just to get on that show to talk to the Reid.
We love you. Right back.
We love you, MED.
Right back.
Thank you, good brother.
I mean, love y'all.
Love you too. We in this for the long haul.
We got this.
Yes, we are. Look, this is a marathon. This ain't no sprint.
Yes, it is.
And sometimes it look like you out of wind. But I'm telling you what you do. I just run track. This is what we did. We be tired as the next person. But they told us, when you pass that person, act like you ain't even breathing. And then the person goes, my God, this dude is not even breathing hard. It's over. That's what we got to do. We got to use Black tricks to trick white folk into allowing us to help them.
Yeah, we got to look at them. When we pass them by, we got to look at them like
Look at them.
Look at them as you running by.
Like Sha'Carri, just look at them like, hey.
I'm just getting started. Hey, boo.
Hello.
Hey, boo, hey.
Hello, hey. Hey, girl, hey.
Dr. Dyson, Michael Eric
Thank
Dyson,
you.
thank you so much. We love you.
Man, I love to read sisters. I love to read sisters.
Thank you.
We're back and we are here. We ain't going nowhere.
We ain't going nowhere. They want to taste us out, but we are heard.
Martin Luther King Jr. said, I ain't going nowhere. We built this nation. We constructed the edifices of opportunity. Now I done built them up for them to sharecrop in my own space. Never. I will never go anywhere. And I'm right here till the wheels fall off.
Till the wheels fall off.
Then I'm a ribbon on you. Then I'm a ribbon on you.
That's right.
Amen. Thank you, brother.
Right,
Thank you. We love you. We appreciate you.
See, that's what I'm talking about. We need to get that word.
Now, who's ready?
Who's ready? We're ready. Let's fight.
Let's go. Let's go. Come
the
on,
dog's
Bernie.
ready.
Right. And Dawn,
the dog said, yeah.
Bernie,
I love the way our dogs are literally like, yeah, me too.
Gotta be part of the show. Oh,
they are.
All right, everybody. That does it for this episode of Read This, Read That. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're so glad that we're back.
Yes.
Right? We're glad that
we
back.
are back. I know. And to all of the people who've run into me in the airports, in public places, and in, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated events and said, when are the cousins coming back? We have granted you your wish. We are pretty much like Glinda the Good Witch in The Wiz. We have given you your good wish and you are home. Welcome home.
Welcome home. Welcome to your podcast home. We'll see you often, every weekend. We know this was a long episode, but we had to get all that election angst out. We had to release.
Purge.
We had to purge. We had to get it out. So hopefully this was good for you as it was for us.
Amen.
And we'll be back next week. So we'll see you soon.
Thank y'all for tuning in. We'll now be departing to our separate rooms because now that is an important thing. You do the same. Tell your spouse that's the new life that you're living. They'll understand.
They definitely do. All right, Play Cousin. Until next week.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to remember to like
and subscribe.